going to talk to you about the power company. You've noticed in the news in October they're going to increase the rates for our bills. Doug Johnson, he's the CEO of Blue Ridge Electric, and in this recent article in the news announcing a 2.5% rate increase of our electric bills beginning in October of this year. Johnson said Blue Ridge Electric will continue working hard to control costs for its members. It's never easy to pass along increases to our members, and we only implement a rate adjustment when absolutely necessary, he said. We want to help members keep their bills as low as possible. These are the words of a man whose compensation package for 2010 was $748,255, according to Blue Ridge Electric's 2010 tax return. $748,255. While the folks who struggle to pay their electric bills are losing their jobs, losing their homes through foreclosure, and their savings being wiped out, the CEO of Blue Ridge Electric saw his compensation go from $528,994 to $748,255 in 2010, an increase of $219,261. During that same period, Lee Layton, Blue Ridge Electric's Chief of Operations, saw his compensation go from $234,288 to $408,926. And Blue Ridge Electric's Chief Financial Officer's compensation went from $260,402 to $360,726. In 2010, the compensation of the 8 people who control BREMCO was $399,309. One could assume the numbers for 2011 and 2012 are even higher. I would guess that you and most people have a favorable image of BREMCO. It's more than likely that favorable image is based on public relations carefully crafted by BREMCO. There are over 900 electric cooperatives in the United States, and they appear to use the same playbook in how they operate. They all have catchy mottos like, own your power, take control of your energy future. When your lights go out, so do we. Together we save. People helping people. Service first. You have a voice with us. Commitment to service and savings. Providing reliable customer service. Owned by those we serve. And BREMCO's Your Membership Matters. As part of the co-op's PR campaign, once a year they donate a book to the schools and libraries. They stage health fairs. They hand out scholarships to young people and send them on trips to Washington. They hand out grants and loan money, all in an effort to portray the co-op as a benign, caring big brother. The public relations person for BREMCO was compensated to the tune of $141,692 in 2010. They never say they're using other people's money to do these things. It's always BREMCO did this, and BREMCO is going to do that. Nationwide, there are 32 rural electric publications with a total circulation of over 9 million. That makes the Electric Co-op statewide publication network the 3rd largest magazine publishing enterprise in the nation. The co-ops use their monthly magazine and press releases to promote over and over how great they are, while never mentioning their dark side. I'm here tonight to share with you information you may not know about electric co-ops and why I became interested and how BREMCO operates. First, the why. As you may know, BREMCO tore down an older but still working fine single-phase copper power line that ran through our farm and replaced it with a new aluminum three-phase line, even though there are no new factories or a major increase in population in our community. As you may also know, I opposed this new line as a matter of principle as to what had taken place in the past. I had also asked BREMCO for their tax records, their complete audits, what the CEO's compensation was, how the board of directors were compensated, and the minutes from their meetings. BREMCO is continually saying that I am an owner of the corporation, so I thought I should be able to see these documents to help me try and understand the situation. But the CEO of BREMCO refused to provide this information. As a result of my opposition, and I believe also asking for the information mentioned previously, BREMCO threatened to destroy me. It appears my membership doesn't matter to them after all. It seemed to me, if BREMCO would threaten to destroy a person, as they did, what else is going on in Lenore? According to the folks in Raleigh, the electric cooperatives answer to no one. They told me that BREMCO didn't have to give me any information, so what follows is what I've been able to find on my own. In January 2010, a large law firm that does work for the electric cooperatives posted an alert on their website. The alert read as follows: patronage capital lawsuits against electric cooperatives on the rise. Class action lawsuits have been filed against electric cooperatives over patronage capital or capital credits and are in active litigation. Depending upon the lawsuit, the plaintiffs allege that the cooperatives breached their obligation to members and violated state law by failing to retire capital credits altogether, involuntarily discounting capital credits, retiring capital credits only upon the death of a member, preferring current members over former members in retiring capital credits. Some of the complaints also included allegations regarding mismanagement of the cooperative's affairs, unauthorized activities funded with members' capital, overcompensation of officers and directors, violation of cooperative principles by withholding information from members, and rigging director elections. Do any of you understand how capital credits work? I couldn't find a good explanation on BREMCO's website, so I began looking on other co-op websites around the state and country for information. This is my understanding of capital credits from what I've read. It seems the co-ops overcharge its members each month on their bills. They then take that overcharge from all the members and put it in an account. They then use this money for whatever. After about 20 years, if there's any money left, they give it back without interest. And if you're dead, to your estate, maybe. If you have moved away, they keep it. Some co-ops have been getting creative with the capital credits, thus the lawsuits. Every person I've asked about capital credits were totally in the dark as to how it works. I still don't know how it works completely. It seems the co-ops don't want people to know, or they would explain it better in their magazines and on their websites. The following is from an essay by Representative Jim Cooper titled "Electric Cooperatives, From New Deal to Bad Deal." The essay was published in the Harvard Journal on Legislation. Electric co-op customers own their co-op. The more electricity a member buys from the co-op, the more equity he or she owns. The average monthly electric bill in 2006 was $102 for a co-op residential customer. These bills are not itemized. Customers cannot see the wholesale cost of electricity, cost of retail distribution, overhead and interest expense, or the co-op equivalent of profit, the average 7% additional margin. In good years, the co-op accumulates this operating income margin, much like retained earnings. The accumulated margin is called capital credits, patronage capital, member equity, or total earnings reinvested in the system, depending on each co-op's preferred terminology. Today, almost every co-op has millions of dollars, if not tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars of capital credits, which, when allocated to members according to their usage, determine the members' exact legal ownership of the co-op. When this equity is finally transferred to members, it may be called capital credits, refunds, return of capital, or dividends. Co-ops do not want outsiders to check the results of operation. They argue that co-op procedures automatically produce superior outcomes. What about co-op procedures? Co-op business software keeps exact accounts of each member's allocated ownership in dollars and cents. But these accounts and amounts are seldom, if ever, revealed to members or allowed to vest until the actual refund occurs. Since co-ops are in constant contact with members by means of monthly bills and issues of Co-op magazine, this failure to communicate important information is troublesome. Another concern is the simplistic, self-serving financial information that is released annually to co-op members in lieu of financial statements. Members receive less factual information than the owners of any other widely held company. Comparisons with other co-ops' performance are never made. This paternalistic treatment makes it extremely difficult for anyone but a specialized researcher to understand a single co-op. As co-ops have aged, their equity has grown from zero in 1936 to $31 billion today. Equity increased by $2 billion in 2006 alone, but only $499 million was refunded without interest, and inflation devalues the returned money. For the year 2010, BREMCO paid $77,057,014 for electricity. They then sold that same electricity for $136,001,622 for a profit on the sale of $58,944,608. The total net assets or fund balance of BREMCO for the year 2010 was $123,714,549. Remember, BREMCO is a not-for-profit company. The profits are supposed to be returned to the owners. And yet, the 2011 audit by Adams, Jenkins, and Cheatham says substantially all of the corporation's assets have been pledged as collateral for the long-term debt to Rural Utility Service, Cooperative Finance Corporation, Federal Financing Bank, and CoBank. BREMCO has borrowed $187,343,782 from these folks to be paid off by 2023, 2028, and 2040. In addition to the money BREMCO has already borrowed, they still have access to $94,500,000 in unadvanced loan funds. In 2010, BREMCO had 75,530 customers. 175 employees, and the CEO's compensation was $748,255. Also in 2010, North Carolina Rutherford Electric Membership Cooperative had 67,329 customers, 180 employees, and their CEO's compensation was $188,232. Also in 2010, North Carolina Brunswick Electric Membership Cooperative had 83,314 customers, 146 employees, and their CEO's compensation was $425,787. And in 2010, North Carolina Energy's United Electric Membership Cooperative had 120,857 customers, 175 employees, and their CEO's compensation was $348,145. As far as I can tell, BREMCO's management is the highest paid of all the electric co-ops in the state. When BREMCO does something for themselves, they do it in a big way. Their facilities in Ashe, Caldwell, Watauga, and Lenoir are beautiful, but who paid for them? The Lowe's building here in the county was a new building, but I've heard BREMCO spent around $2 million to remodel it. People refer to it as the Taj Mahal. Cost doesn't seem to matter when it's a project they want to do. The single-phase copper power line that serves the house I grew up in another state, is still in service. It's close to 70 years old and serves a considerably larger community and for a much greater distance than the line that passed through our farm. The for-profit company that owns the line must have the same electrical engineering knowledge as BREMCO, and yet the for-profit company provides reliable service with that single-phase line. BREMCO, on the other hand, told me that they had to upgrade the single-phase line that ran through our farm to a three-phase line to provide reliable service. We already had reliable service with the single-phase line right up until the time BREMCO tore it down to build the three-phase line. The following report, prepared by the Virginia State Corporation Commission for the Governor and the Virginia General Assembly in 2005 concerning the cost of building power lines, says, based on estimates provided by the investor-owned electric utilities, the electric cooperatives, the average cost per mile of new electric overhead construction can run from a low of approximately $15,000 per mile for single-phase taps in rural communities to a high of $250,000 per mile for three-phase lines. BREMCO is a government-enabled monopoly, quoting Congressman Cooper. Co-ops continue to be largely free from regulations due to political reluctance to interfere with what appears from the outside to be smoothly running operations. Co-op members do not complain much, and politicians are afraid of angering co-op managers, directors, and employees. Co-ops are so influential inside their communities and keep such a low profile outside that they are rarely in the news except for occasional scandals. Customer ownership is another reason for lack of scrutiny. In theory, electric co-ops are continually self-regulating. The public relations person for BREMCO will tell you the co-op is regulated and controlled by the board of directors, and the membership elects these board members to represent their interests within the co-op. On a personal note, I wrote to all 12 directors and asked for their help. Not one of them even acknowledged receiving my letter. The so-called election for board of directors each year is just another way co-ops fool the folks who pay the bills. It goes like this. The city board will appoint a nominating committee, and then the nominating committee will nominate the city board members as the only candidates for each open seat. So the city board members will run unopposed. The management has an interest in seeing that the board doesn't change. And if it does change as the result of a retirement or death, the new board member is management approved. If a nominee is placed on the ballot by petition, the management will use the co-op's money to mail letters to the membership urging them to vote for the city board members. In 2012, BREMCO Board of Directors election, there were 4 open seats. The existing directors were the only nominees. In 2011, Walter McMillan and John Wishon Jr. were nominated to replace the retiring Martha McKnight. Wishon won. And 3 people were nominated to replace the retiring Clayton Cook from Watauga. For the remaining 2 seats, the existing directors were the only nominees. In 2010, there were 4 open seats. The existing directors were the only nominees. In 2009, there were 4 open seats. The existing directors were the only nominees. In 2008, there were 4 open seats. The existing directors were the only nominees. In 2007, there were 4 open seats. Brian Edwards was the only nominee to replace the retiring John Woodard. For the other 3 open seats, the existing directors were the only nominees. In 2006, there were 4 open seats. Jimmy Hemphill was the only nominee to replace the retiring Orrin Teague. For the other 3 open seats, the existing directors were the only nominees. In 2005, there were 4 open seats. The existing directors were the only nominees. In 2004, there were 4 open seats. Bradley McNeil was the only nominee to replace the retiring Charles Edwards. For the other 3 open seats, the existing directors were the only nominees. In 2003, there were 4 open seats. The existing directors were the only nominees. In 2002, there were 4 open seats. Tana Murray was placed on the ballot by petition, challenging nominee David Eggers of Caldwell County. Eggers won. For the other 3 open seats, the existing directors were the only nominees. In 2001, there were 4 open seats. The existing directors were the only nominees. And in 2000, there were 4 open seats. The existing directors were the only nominees. Since 2000, 5 directors have retired that I know of. They were Martha McKnight. She was on the board for 27 years. Clayton Cook, 8 years. John Woodruff, 39 years. Orrin Teague, 41 years. Charles Edwards, 39 years. Since 2000, 3 directors have died in office that I know of. They were Johnny Austin, he was on the board for 31 years. G.C. Norris, 22 years. And Jackie Blackburn, 14 years. As of 2010, the lowest paid BREMCO director received $20,306, and the highest paid director received $31,798. The board of directors are rarely elected. They are selected. And to get people to vote in these one-candidate selections, the co-ops bribe people with the chance to win big screen television sets, used cars, food and drink, and entertainment. Congressman Cooper describes it as follows. The ability of co-op employees to control these board seats, and through the directors, the co-op, has made employees much more influential than the co-op's apathetic membership. Co-op managers and employees have often become the de facto owners of the co-op. It seems this is what has happened to BREMCO. When CEO Doug Johnson says Blue Ridge Electric will continue working hard to control cost for its members, and it's never easy to pass along increases to our members, and we only implement a rate adjustment when absolutely necessary, and we want to help members keep their bills as low as possible. It's hard to believe any of that, It sounds like the same old co-op propaganda. BREMCO has proven itself to be extravagant in the way it pays its staff, the way it builds its buildings, and in its approach to maintaining and replacing power lines. They will destroy any member who stands in their way and then brag about how honest they are and how they deal with integrity. In 2010, BREMCO spent $635,000 on lawyers. They spent $2,245,072 on travel and conventions. For BREMCO, there is no economic depression. They continue doing as they please and then send the bill to the ratepayers. So, what does any of this have to do with the county? There are 494,692 reasons for you to be concerned. That's about what the county and the school system paid for electricity last year. $494,692. And with a 2.5% increase, thousands more will be added to that figure. You have also voted to give the hospital $250,000 and suggested that it be applied to their utility bill. What BREMCO charges its members for electricity is decided by the Board of Directors, period. As representatives of the county, you could join with the other counties and oppose this increase in electric rates. If BREMCO is not opposed in this increase, they will continue to increase our rates year after year. This is not speculation. They have stated this is what they expect to do. In BREMCO's press release about the 2.5% rate increase, they didn't provide any proof a rate increase was justified. They didn't show us a detailed financial statement proving the corporation isn't overcapitalized. They didn't tell us what the co-op's latest equity as percent of assets currently is. They didn't provide the co-op's latest times interest earnings ratio or any other detailed financial statements to prove a rate increase is justified. As our county representatives, you could ask BREMCO for this information. After all, the county is a member owner of the corporation, and its membership should matter. Before the BREMCO Board of Directors increased the electric rates on the membership, it would be nice if they first cut the extravagancies within the co-op. And finally, it was just 4 months ago that BREMCO was pushing the story that they were refunding $2 million in capital credits. That would be $2 million of the membership's own money returned without interest and devalued by inflation. Now, they're going to take it back with this new rate increase. I ask that you oppose BREMCO's October rate increase. And as always, the following prayer was offered in the United States Senate. O Lord God, our God, deliver us from the fear of what might happen and give us the grace to enjoy what now is and to keep striving after what ought to be. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Questions or comments to Mr. Smith? If not, we'll move on to general business.